welcome back to our channel. Ruth here, and in today's video I'd like to share with you habits of an extraordinary life in 10 simple tips. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1. If you want to learn to live an extraordinary life, you must learn to be thankful. One of the greatest keys to sustain our momentum to live the extraordinary life and to achieve limitless success is actually to be thankful. The author of Chronicles of Narnia, now how many of you have watched his movies or read his books, or your kids might have actually watched his movies? The author, C.S. Lewis, puts it this way. He said, "We ought to give thanks for all fortune, if it is good because it is good, if bad because it works in us patience, humility, and the contempt of this world and the hope of our eternal country." Now that sounds pretty deep, but what he's trying to say is we must learn to be thankful, whether it's to find something in the present or in the past to be thankful for. So in terms of being thankful, I mean, it doesn't have to be something spectacular. You know, we don't have to have something extraordinary that happens in our life to be thankful. But personally, I try my best to take a little time to be thankful for something every single day. For example, you can be thankful for shelter, or you can be thankful for your family, for food on the table, for the ability to pay bills, or maybe, you know, for me, I like to be thankful for the weather, especially when it's like a really nice sunny day weather. Right now it's really cold here in Australia, but we do get some really nice weathers, well, most of the time. So I am thankful for the weather. So that's tip number 1, be thankful. Tip number 2, forgiveness. Now that is a painful topic, but it is relieving. Many a times, you know, things happen in the past, whether it's situations, failures, or something that someone has said, or just circumstances that just didn't really go down really well. And we tend to, you know, be traumatized and take offense. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's easy to forgive, but it is important. You know, if we want to live the extraordinary life, this is actually the habit of people who are very successful. Most of them practice forgiveness. In fact, Oprah Winfrey puts it this way, and you might have heard of this quote. She says, "Bitterness or unforgiveness is like drinking a cup of poison every day and hoping that the other person will die." So imagine unforgiveness, you're drinking poison every day, hoping that the other person will die. And this is her other famous quote. She says, "Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different. It is accepting the past for what it was and using this moment and this time to help yourself move forward." And I actually really agree with that, because, you know, sometimes someone has done you wrong, and you're really hurt. You know, I've been there before, you know, many times. And Oprah says, you know, it's like drinking poison every day, hoping that the other person will die. But, you know, we never know that, you know, unforgiveness actually eats into us every single day. So we need to learn to find a place to just let it go, not for their sake, but not so much for their sake, but for our own sake, for our peace of mind, for our spiritual growth, etc. So that's step number 2, habits of an extraordinary life, forgiveness. Number 3, do not listen to naysayers. Now, this is really important, because in life we will meet a lot of people in our journey who have sometimes, I would say, really good intentions, but sometimes their advice are probably, put it this way, you can actually do without their advice, okay? Now, have you ever met people who, you know, you share your dreams and your visions, you know, you've got a dream to achieve this and that, and every time you say something to them about it, they tend to be very negative about it, and they pull you down. You know, Ed Milet, who is a very successful entrepreneur, in the US and a motivational speaker. He actually puts it this way. He says, if the person is really successful in that area and they criticize you or they give you an opinion in that area, then take heed, listen to it, because perhaps they can actually help you. But if they're not great in that area and they try and give you advice multiple times, then you might want to think, I wonder if I should be accepting advice from this person, okay? For example, years ago, I had a friend of mine who has got every good intention, I believe, but she was trying to give me a lots of relationship and marriage advice, okay? But this person had gone through multiple marriage failures. And every time they speak to me, I feel like there is like a problem somewhere. And in actual fact, there isn't any problem. So you need to be able to discern and determine as to whether is this person, is what they're saying, you know, are they a naysayer, or are they actually really, is their opinion helpful? Is their advice actually going to build you up? So you need to be able to distinguish that. Tip number 4, if you want to have an extraordinary life, then you must learn to set SMART goals. Now, some of you have heard of that. It actually originated from George T. Doran. He actually wrote an issue of management review paper. And in this paper, he spoke about the SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T, for corporations. But in today's context, SMART actually represents specific. So when you set a goal, target a specific area that you want to improve in. It must have a clear intended end. Must not be vague. M stands for measurable. You must be able to quantify or suggest an indicator of progress, and you must be able to track the progress. A stands for assignable. Specify the person who will carry out the goal. Now, in the modern context, A stands for attainable, which means you can realistically achieve within the given time frame. R stands for realistic, although in the modern context, it stands for relevant, which means it should benefit your goals directly. And finally, T stands for time-related, or in the modern context, time-bound, and it has to be set in a specific time frame in which the goals should be achieved. So if you look at your life today and you want to take the next step to improve yourself, whether it's to grow your business, start a business, grow your income, invest, or something simple like you want to pursue a hobby, or you want to save up for vacation, etc. Try and see if you can meet every single acronym SMART. And in another video, I've actually shared about SMART goals and goal setting, and I've given some really specific examples, so you can actually check that out. But for the purposes of today, it's just, I'm going to keep it simple. So when you set goals, SMART, make sure it is SMART. Number 5, if you want to have an extraordinary life. Now, this is not surprising for anyone, and your parents probably used to tell you that when you were growing up, eat your vegetables. Now, I'm not saying that you should be vegetarian or a vegan, but try your best to eat as healthy as possible, because you know what, at the end of the day, we only get to live this one life, and we've got this one body, and we have one chance to make it. So live to the best of your ability and look after your body, because your brain is only as active and as sharp as your body. So as much as possible, try and eat healthy. You know, in my other occupation, I'm actually a personal trainer and a food nutrition or food coach. So I used to give a lot of advice about that. But one thing I noticed is that there is not a hard and fast rule. Like what I do, what I recommend to my fitness clients might be quite different than what you might want to do. So really, you need to find out that balance, you know, as to where what works for you and what does not work for you. For me, I tend to eat certain foods which I will never ever recommend to my clients, because, you know, they tell me it goes straight to the hips. But then they will be able to eat other kinds of food that I'm not tolerant to, because, you know, my ancestors might have, you know, eaten a certain way. So it really depends on you. So as much as possible, eat healthy. Tip number 6, sleep. So it's important that we get enough sleep. Now, I'm actually preaching to myself here because for many years, having come through, the British education system, and then having gone through law school, for those who've been to university, there's no sleep, no such thing as sleep. We have to memorize the whole legal book and go for exams, quoting statutes and legislations. So, but one thing I noticed is that now that my life is more stable, I have a pretty good, I would say, time management and routine. I can actually control my sleep, and I can actually dedicate more time to actually sleep. And I find that it's really helpful. If you've actually slept well, had a good night's sleep, your brain actually works a lot better as well. So I believe that's really important, and a lot of successful people, and apparently billionaires, billionaires have this one thing in common, because there was a studies done on them, and they all have this one thing in common where they actually prioritize their sleep. Tip number 8, exercise. Okay, so that could be a cardio workout, strength training, etc. So whatever you want to do, make sure you get your heart rate up. And I'm gonna leave it as there. Number 9, organization. It's important that we organize our environment, because if things are cluttered everywhere, if your hard drive is cluttered, if your emails are cluttered, then I feel like sometimes I don't have the brain capacity to really think about how to grow the business, how to expand this and that. So I think it's important that we find ways to organize. There's a lot of tips on the internet today about how you can organize. I'm not saying you have to be a minimalist, although I've got a few friends who've literally got 5 white shirts, and that's all they wear every single day, and that's fantastic, but I like lots of clothes. But getting organized is important, because when you have a environment that's not cluttered, then you can actually think straight, and you can think sharp. And finally, time management. Time management is really, really important. It's really important that to live an extraordinary life, if you want to see success, if you want to see greater success, and you want to see growth in your life, that you manage your time well. Always schedule time for your MIT, which is your most important task. Always think about the one thing that you can do that day or that week that's going to add value to you in the next 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, that's going to help you to leave a legacy behind, because we only get to live this one life. So we need to live it well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, the tips for an extraordinary life to achieve limitless success. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Now, last but not least, would you be so kind to hit the like and subscribe button so we can keep you motivated? And you know what? That's going to mean the world to me. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.